Chapter 1. A House That Doesn't Feel Like Home. The house on Willow Bend Drive looked peaceful from the outside. Neatly trimmed lawn, white siding, wind chimes clicking softly on the porch whenever the breeze cut through the Texas heat. It was the kind of place real estate agents described as perfect for families. Harvey Wiggins stood in the garage with the hood of his old Ford truck raised, wiping grease from his hands with a rag that had once been white. He liked the garage. It made sense. Things were broken. You fixed them. Parts fit where they belonged. If something didn't work, there was a reason and a solution. Inside the house, things were never that simple. Dad, Emma's voice floated out through the open door, small and careful, like she wasn't sure she was allowed to use it. Harvey turned immediately. Yeah, Peanut. She stood just inside the threshold, barefoot, holding her stuffed rabbit by one floppy ear. Her dark hair hung loose around her face, and her eyes, too serious for 7, kept flicking past him toward the driveway, as if she expected someone else to appear. Mom says dinner's ready. He smiled and knelt, wiping his hands again before pulling her into a quick hug. She smelled like strawberry shampoo and crayons. Safe things. All right, go wash up. I'll be there in a minute. Emma nodded, but she didn't move right away. She shifted her weight, rabbit dragging against the floor. Dad, she said again. Are we going to Grandma Dolores's soon? The question landed heavier than it should have. Harvey straightened slowly. What? Emma shrugged, the smallest lift of her shoulders. Just asking. But her fingers had tightened around the rabbit. He watched her for a second, memorizing the way her eyes dropped to the floor when she mentioned that name. Dolores Flores, Angela's mother, retired nurse, church-going, perfectly polite in public. And somehow, every time Emma came back from her house, she was quieter, jumpier. No plans yet, Harvey said carefully. Why don't you go wash your hands? She nodded again and hurried off, relief crossing her face so quickly it made his chest tighten. Harvey shut the truck hood harder than necessary. Inside, the kitchen lights were bright, almost harsh. Angela stood at the counter, still in her tailored navy skirt and blouse, her heels kicked off by the fridge. Her laptop sat open beside a stack of legal folders, phone wedged between her shoulder and ear. Yes, Judge Ramirez, I understand, she said, tone smooth and professional. I'll have a revised motion filed first thing in the morning. She hung up and exhaled, rubbing her temples. You're home late, Harvey said. She glanced at the clock. It's not late. It's efficient. He didn't argue. That was their pattern now, statements, not conversations. Emma climbed onto her chair and stared at her plate without touching it. How was your day? Harvey asked her. She poked a green bean. Okay. Angela sat, already scrolling through her phone again. Mom called earlier. Harvey felt it immediately, that tightening behind his ribs. Yeah. She wants Emma this weekend. Emma's fork froze halfway to her mouth. Harvey looked at Angela. We talked about this. Angela sighed, the sound sharp. We talked about you overreacting. I'm not overreacting, he said, keeping his voice low. Emma comes back from that house, scared every time. That is not true. It is, he insisted. She won't sleep. She flinches when doors close. Last time, she's a child, Harvey, Angela snapped. Children imagine things. My mother raised 2 daughters just fine. Emma slid off her chair. I'm not hungry, she whispered. Harvey stood. Hey, I'll be in my room, Emma said, already backing away. Angela watched her go jaw tight. See? You upset her. I didn't say anything, Harvey replied. You don't have to. You look at my mother like she's some kind of monster. Harvey leaned against the counter, arms crossed. Angela, I was trained to read people. Something's off with her. Angela laughed once, humorless. All right, marine instincts. You hear yourself. She locks him in that back room, Harvey said quietly. Angela stiffened. She does quiet time. I did it too, in a dark closet. That is not what it is. That's what Emma said. Angela slammed her phone down. Emma is sensitive. She always has been. You coddle her. Harvey felt heat rise in his chest. She's 7, and my mother is helping us. Angela shot back. I work 60 hours a week. You think your shop pays for everything? She watches Emma so he can function. At what cost? Angela stood, gathering her folders. I have a conference in Atlanta. The words hung there. When? Harvey asked. Tomorrow morning. He stared at her. You didn't tell me. I'm telling you now. And Emma. Angela didn't hesitate. She'll stay with my mother. The kitchen felt suddenly smaller. Too quiet. Harvey heard the hum of the fridge, the tick of the clock, his own breathing. No, he said. Angela's eyes hardened. This is not a debate. She doesn't feel safe there. She is fine, Angela said sharply. You're projecting your own issues. My issues? Harvey shook his head. I watch grown men lie to survive. I know what fear looks like. Angela slung her bag over her shoulder. You see threats everywhere because you can't let go of the past. Harvey opened his mouth, then closed it. From down the hall, he could hear Emma's door creak softly, like she was listening. Angela paused at the doorway. Drop her off tomorrow afternoon. I'll call Mom and let her know. She didn't wait for his answer. Harvey stood alone in the kitchen, staring at Emma's untouched plate, as the house that was supposed to protect them all felt colder than ever. Chapter 2. The Drive Emma Dreads. The sky was already heavy with afternoon heat when Harvey pulled out of the driveway. The sun pressed down through the windshield, turning the dashboard warm beneath his palms. Austin traffic crawled, engines humming, turn signals clicking like nervous ticks. Everything felt normal, too normal for a drive that made his stomach tighten the way it did before a fight. Emma sat in the back seat, her booster buckled tight. Her stuffed rabbit was in her lap, both arms wrapped around it as if it might slip away if she loosened her grip. She stared out the window, watching houses pass, then strip malls, then the long stretch of road that led away from home. Harvey checked the rearview mirror. Seatbelt okay back there? Emma nodded without turning. Yes, Daddy. Her voice was small, smaller than usual. He waited a few seconds, letting the engine noise fill the space. You doing all right? Another nod. No words. They drove in silence for a while. Harvey told himself he was imagining the tension. Kids didn't like change. That's all this was. Angela said it every time. She's sensitive. She'll grow out of it. But Emma's foot was bouncing. Her knee hit the side of the seat in a steady, anxious rhythm. Hey, he said gently. You can talk to me. She swallowed. About what? About anything. Emma hesitated, then hugged the rabbit tighter. Are we going to Grandma Dolores's house now? Harvey exhaled slowly. Yeah, just for a little while. Her shoulders slumped. How come? She asked. Mom has to work, he replied. You know that. Emma's fingers twisted into the rabbit's fabric. I don't like it there. Harvey's grip on the steering wheel tightened. I know, kiddo. She glanced up at him in the mirror. Mom says I have to. I know, he repeated. They passed a gas station. Harvey flicked on the blinker without thinking, then turned it off again. Don't be stupid, he told himself. You can't just ignore your wife. Emma shifted in her seat. Daddy. Yeah. She gets mad when I cry. Harvey's jaw clenched. Who does? Grandma Dolores. Emma stared at her shoes now. She says crying is bad behavior. He felt something cold settle in his chest. What happens when she gets mad? Emma shrugged, but her voice wobbled. She makes me stand still, or she tells me to be quiet. That doesn't sound so bad, Harvey said carefully, even as his instincts screamed otherwise. There's a place, Emma added softly. In the hallway. Harvey glanced at her again. What kind of place? The closet, she whispered. The word hung there, heavy and wrong. What closet? He asked, though he already knew. The one by the bathroom, Emma said. It's dark. Harvey swallowed. What happens in the closet? She pressed her lips together, shaking her head. Emma, he said, keeping his voice steady. You won't get in trouble. She took a breath, then another. She locks it. His foot eased off the gas. Locks it how? With a click, Emma said, mimicking the sound with her mouth. And she says it's quiet time, and I have to stay until I learn. Learn what? Harvey asked, his pulse pounding. Emma's eyes filled. To be good. The road blurred for a second. Harvey blinked hard and focused on the white lines ahead. How long does she leave you in there? He asked. I don't know, Emma said. There's no light. Sometimes I count in my head. Sometimes I fall asleep on the floor. Harvey's hands trembled. He adjusted his grip so she wouldn't see. Does she ever hurt you? He asked. Emma hesitated. She grabs my arm sometimes. Why don't listen fast? A red light loomed ahead. Harvey stopped harder than necessary, the car jolting slightly. Does Mom know? He asked. Emma shook her head quickly. Grandma says I shouldn't tell. She says Mom will be mad at me. Harvey stared straight ahead as the light changed. A horn honked behind him. He drove on. I'm not mad at you, he said. I'm never mad at you for telling me things. Emma nodded, tears spilling over now. She says you don't like her. Harvey's voice dropped. What do you think? Emma sniffed. I think you don't like when I go there. That's true, he admitted. She looked up again. Can we not go? The question cut deeper than anything else she'd said. Harvey glanced at the side mirror. There was a street coming up a way back. He could turn around. He could call Angela. He could say no. The thought flared bright and dangerous. Daddy, Emma whispered. He didn't answer right away. His mind raced. Angela's anger, the arguments, the way she'd looked at him last night like he was an obstacle instead of a partner. The mortgage. The fragile peace they pretended was a marriage. Not again, Emma said suddenly. Harvey's heart stuttered. What do you mean, not again? She wiped her nose with her sleeve. Last time I cried and asked you to stay. You said you had to go. The words hit him like a punch. I didn't know, he said hoarsely. Emma nodded. I know. That was worse. He slowed the car, pulling into the right lane. His blinker clicked. He could still turn. The steering wheel felt alive under his hands, like it was waiting for a decision. Daddy, Emma said, her voice barely there. She says if I tell, it'll be longer next time. Harvey felt heat surge through him, rage, sharp and electric. He pictured the narrow hallway, the dark door, his daughter alone and counting to stay brave. His foot hovered over the brake. I won't let that happen again, he said, more to himself than to her. Emma watched him closely. Really? He met her eyes in the mirror. Really? The car rolled forward. Harvey straightened his shoulders, forcing his breathing to slow. He didn't turn around, but something inside him had already made a decision. As they continued toward Dolores's house, Harvey promised himself one thing with absolute clarity. He would confront Dolores directly. Chapter 3, The Doorstep Choice. Dolores Flores's house sat at the end of a quiet cul-de-sac, beige stucco and white trim bleached by years of Texas sun. The yard was immaculate, hedges clipped into obedience, porch swept clean. Nothing out of place. Nothing that hinted at what waited behind the door. Harvey parked at the curb and shut off the engine. For a moment, neither he nor Emma moved. We're here, he said. Emma's hands tightened around her rabbit. She didn't answer. Harvey turned in his seat. Hey, he softened his voice. Remember what I said in the car? Emma nodded, but her eyes were already glassy. You said you'd talk to her. I will, he promised. You stay right next to me. They stepped out into the heat. Cicadas buzzed from the trees. Somewhere a lawn sprinkler clicked on, steady and indifferent. Dolores opened the door before Harvey could knock, as if she'd been watching through the peephole. She wore pressed slacks and a pale blouse, silver hair pulled tight at the nape of her neck. Her smile was thin and practiced. There you are, she said. Traffic? Something like that, Harvey replied. Dolores's eyes flicked past him to Emma. Hello, sweetheart. Emma pressed closer to Harvey's leg. Dolores sighed, already irritated. Shoes off inside. Harvey didn't move. We need to talk. Dolores arched a brow. About what? About the closet. The smile vanished. Dolores stepped back, folding her arms. Excuse me. Emma told me you lock her in a dark closet as punishment. That's not what it is, Dolores said coolly. It's quiet time. In a locked closet? Dolores's lips thinned. Children exaggerate. Emma whimpered softly. Harvey felt his chest tighten. She's 7. She shouldn't be locked anywhere. Dolores's voice sharpened. I raised 2 daughters. Both survived. Both became successful women. You think I don't know how to discipline a child? This isn't discipline, Harvey said. This is none of your business, Dolores snapped. Angela and I discussed it. Harvey pulled out his phone. Then let's discuss it again. Dolores sniffed. Go ahead. Angela answered on the second ring. I'm boarding soon. What is it? Did you know about the closet? Harvey asked. There was a pause. Harvey, did you know she locks Emma in the dark? Angela sighed audibly. She doesn't lock her. She keeps the door closed. Emma shook her head violently. Emma says otherwise, Harvey said. Emma is dramatic, Angela replied. She gets that from you. Dolores smirked. This needs to stop, Harvey insisted. She's terrified. Harvey, Angela said, her voice hard now, I don't have time for this. My mother is helping us. You don't get to undermine her because you're uncomfortable. I'm her father, and I'm her mother, Angela snapped. Drop her off. We'll talk when I get back. The call ended. Harvey stared at the dark screen. The house seemed to loom closer, the doorway narrowing. Dolores stepped aside. You heard her. Emma clutched Harvey's jeans. Daddy, she whispered. He felt the tug, light but desperate. Come on, Emma, Dolores said impatiently. Don't make a scene. Emma shook her head and wrapped both arms around Harvey's leg, pressing her face into him. Daddy, please, she cried. Not again. Take me with you. The words sliced through him. Dolores clicked her tongue. Enough. Harvey bent down. Emma, she sobbed harder, fingers digging into him like anchors. Please, I'll be good. I promise. Every instinct in him screamed to lift her, to walk back to the truck, to drive until the house disappeared in the mirror. Dolores grabbed Emma's arm. Hey, Harvey barked. Don't touch her like that. She's fine, Dolores said sharply, yanking Emma toward the doorway. You're filling her head with nonsense. Emma screamed. Harvey reached out but stopped. The world seemed to freeze in that half-second. Emma's face twisted in fear. Dolores's grip firm and practiced. The open door behind them, dark and waiting. Harvey saw Angela's face in his mind, furious, betrayed. He saw courtrooms and custody arguments. He saw his marriage cracking under one more refusal. He saw his daughter. Daddy, Emma cried, her nails scratching at his leg as Dolores pulled. Harvey swallowed hard. I'll be back soon, he said, the words tasting like ash. Okay, I promise. Emma's eyes searched his, wide and broken. Don't go. Dolores hauled her inside. She's fine, Dolores said dismissively, shutting the door halfway. Stop upsetting her. The door closed with a final, solid click. Harvey stood on the porch, his hands empty, his heart pounding so hard it hurt. The house was silent again. Perfect. Polite. He walked back to his truck in a daze, the cicadas screaming now, louder than before. He sat behind the wheel, but didn't start the engine. His legs still tingled where Emma had held him. As he drove away, the image burned into him, his daughter reaching for him, and him letting go. Somewhere deep inside, Harvey knew with terrifying certainty that he had just made the worst decision of his life. Chapter 4. The Call No Parent Survives. The shop smelled like oil and hot metal, a comfort Harvey had relied on for years. The radio murmured low country music from a dusty speaker in the corner. A sedan sat on the lift, its undercarriage exposed, waiting for a part that should have arrived an hour ago. Harvey wiped his hands on a rag and glanced at the clock on the wall. 4 hours. That's how long it had been since he'd driven away from Dolores's house. 4 hours since Emma's fingers had slipped from his leg. He told himself to focus. Bolts. Torque. One job at a time. He tightened a nut, checked the alignment, then checked it again, even though he'd already done it right. His phone buzzed in his pocket. Just a text from a supplier. He exhaled, annoyed at his own jumpiness. She's fine, Angela had said. Harvey straightened and walked to the workbench, sorting tools that were already sorted. His thoughts kept circling back to the porch. The door. The click of the lock. He could still hear Emma's voice, thin and panicked. Not again. He pressed his palms to the bench and closed his eyes. You promised you'd confront her, he reminded himself. You did, but the promise felt hollow now, like a receipt for something already lost. The radio crackled. A song ended. Static hissed. His phone rang. Unknown number. Harvey frowned and answered anyway. Hello. For a moment, there was only wind on the other end, rushing and uneven. Then a man's voice, strained and urgent. Sir, is this Harvey Wiggins? Yes, Harvey said, heart picking up speed. Who is this? My name's Mark. Listen, I'm on Highway 71, just past the Cedar Ridge exit. He paused, breath hitching. I found your number on a little girl's phone. It says ICE, in case of emergency. Harvey's chest tightened. What little girl? There was another pause, heavier this time. She says her name is Emma. The world tilted. What? Harvey whispered. Where is she? She's with me, Mark said quickly. She was walking along the shoulder of the highway. Barefoot. Harvey's knees went weak. He grabbed the edge of the bench. Is she hurt? He demanded. She's covered in blood, Mark said. I don't know if it's hers. She's shaking. I pulled over as soon as I saw her. The shop seemed to fall away. The smells, the sounds gone. I'm her father, Harvey said, his voice coming out hoarse. Talk to me, please. I put my jacket around her. Mark continued, words tumbling over each other. She won't let go of the phone. Harvey could hear something else now. Soft, uneven breathing. A faint whimper. Emma, he said. There was a rustle, then her voice, barely there. Daddy. His heart cracked open. I'm here, sweetheart. I ran, she whispered. That's okay, Harvey said, fighting to keep his voice steady. You're safe now. There was blood, Emma said. On the floor. Everywhere. Harvey squeezed his eyes shut. Are you hurt? I don't think so, she said. My feet hurt. We'll fix that, he promised. I'm coming to you. Daddy, Emma whispered again, like she was afraid he might disappear. Someone wouldn't wake up. A cold wave washed through him. Who, baby? She sniffed. Aunt Brooke. The name landed like a blow. Mark's voice cut back in, low and urgent. Sir, she's in shock. I called 911, but I wanted to reach you first. Where exactly are you? Harvey asked. Mile marker 143. There's a gas station sign, red letters. I know it, Harvey said. Stay with her. Don't let her walk anymore. I won't. Harvey ended the call and stood frozen for half a second, phone still pressed to his ear. Then his body moved on instinct. Tom, he shouted. His coworker poked his head out from the back. What's up? I have to go, Harvey said, already yanking off his gloves. Family emergency. Tom saw his face and didn't ask another question. Go. I'll lock up. Harvey ran. He burst through the shop door, sunlight blinding him for a moment. His truck sat where he'd left it, dusty and familiar. He fumbled the keys, dropped them, cursed, grabbed them again. As he pulled onto the road, his phone buzzed. Angela's name flashed on the screen. He ignored it. The engine roared as he pressed the gas. Traffic blurred past, horns blaring as he cut lanes. His hands shook on the steering wheel. Barefoot, blood, highway. His mind raced, filling in images he didn't want. Emma alone. Emma scared. Emma running. He pictured Dolores' house. The closed door. The lie. She's fine. His phone buzzed again. Angela. Again. He answered this time, voice sharp. What? Harvey. Why are you calling me repeatedly? Angela snapped. I'm in the air. Emma is on the side of the highway, he said. Covered in blood. Silence. What? Angela whispered. I'm going to her now, he said. I'll call you later. The line went dead. Harvey didn't slow down. The road stretched out ahead of him, long and unforgiving. Each mile marker felt like an eternity. He kept replaying Emma's voice, afraid it would fade if he didn't hold on to it. Someone wouldn't wake up. His chest burned. His jaw clenched so tight it ached. Regret crashed over him in waves, heavy and relentless. I should have taken you with me, he muttered to the empty cab. I should have listened. The exit sign appeared in the distance, Cedar Ridge. Harvey hit the blinker and turned, heart pounding so loud it drowned out the engine, racing toward the only place that mattered. Chapter 5, 6 Miles of Fear. Harvey spotted the hazard lights first. They blinked against the dimming sky like a heartbeat, steady, urgent, pulled over on the shoulder just past the mile marker. A pickup truck sat angled away from traffic, one door open. A man stood beside it, jacket wrapped around something small. Harvey slammed the brakes and swerved onto the shoulder. Gravel sprayed. He didn't remember unbuckling. He didn't remember opening the door. He only remembered running. Emma, he shouted. The man looked up. Sir, are you? Harvey was already there. Emma lifted her head at the sound of his voice, and whatever strength had been holding her upright vanished. She stumbled forward, bare feet slipping on the asphalt, and then she was in his arms, collapsing against his chest with a sound that wasn't quite a sob and wasn't quite a breath. I've got you, Harvey said, crushing her to him. I've got you. You're okay. You're okay. She clutched his shirt with both hands, fingers numb and trembling. Her hair was tangled and stiff in places. Blood streaked her legs, dried and dark, smeared across her knees and calves. Her feet were raw, blistered, tiny cuts packed with dirt. Harvey felt his knees buckle. He dropped to the ground with her, holding her like she might blow away if he loosened his grip. "I'm here," he kept saying over and over. "I'm here." She pressed her face into his chest. "I ran," she whispered. "I didn't stop." "That's my girl," he said, voice breaking. "You did so good." The man, Mark, hovered nearby. "I called 911, he said quietly. "They're on the way." Harvey looked up, eyes wild. "Thank you," he said. "Thank you." Emma whimpered when a car rushed past, wind whipping her hair. "Hey," Harvey murmured, shielding her with his body. "It's okay. Daddy's got you." She nodded weakly, eyes fluttering. Harvey stood, lifting her carefully. She was lighter than she should have been, all sharp bones and shaking limbs. He carried her to his truck, laid her gently on the passenger seat, and wrapped a blanket around her legs. His hands shook as he buckled her in. "I'm right here," he told her. "I'm not going anywhere." Her eyes stayed on him, like she was afraid he might disappear if she blinked. The paramedic sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Harvey leaned into the open door, brushing hair from Emma's face. "Can you talk to me?" he asked softly. She swallowed. "A little." "That's perfect," he said. "Just tell me what you can." Her eyes drifted toward the windshield, unfocused. They were yelling. Who was yelling? Harvey asked. "Grandma," Emma said, "and Aunt Brooke." Harvey's stomach twisted. "Brooke was there?" Emma nodded. "She came fast. She was mad. She said Grandma was lying." "About what?" Harvey asked. Emma frowned, thinking about money and pills. Harvey felt a chill crawl up his spine. "She said she was going to tell," Emma continued. "Grandma said she'd ruin everything." Her small hands clenched the blanket. Harvey covered them with his own, grounding her. "You're doing great," he said. Emma took a shaky breath. Then the man came. "What man?" Harvey asked, though he already feared the answer. "Lance," Emma said. "Grandma called him." The name hit Harvey like ice water. "What did Lance do?" he asked carefully. Emma's voice dropped. He was angry. He yelled too. Aunt Brooke said she was calling the police. Harvey's pulse thundered in his ears. And then Emma squeezed her eyes shut. There was a knife. The word echoed in the cab. She screamed. Emma whispered. "I screamed too, but Grandma told me to go to my room." Harvey's jaw clenched so hard it hurt. "Did you go?" She shook her head. "I hid by the stairs." His chest tightened painfully. "Okay." Emma's voice trembled. "Lance stabbed her." "I saw it." Harvey's vision blurred. He forced himself to breathe. "Grandma didn't scream," Emma said. "She just watched." Something broke inside him. "She told me to go to my room again," Emma continued. "But then she looked at me." Harvey leaned closer. "How did she look at you?" Emma opened her eyes. They were huge, haunted, like I wasn't supposed to see. Harvey felt a surge of cold fury. "She told Lance." Emma said slowly. "She told him I was there." Harvey's hand tightened around the door frame. "What did Lance do then?" he asked. Emma's voice dropped to a whisper. "He came toward me." The sirens were closer now. Harvey barely heard them. "I ran," Emma said. "I ran to the window in the bathroom. The one that sticks." "How did you get open?" Harvey asked. "I pushed," she said. "Really hard. My arm hurt." Harvey glanced at her arm. Purple bruises bloomed along her forearm. "I fell," Emma continued. "Outside, but I got up." "You were so brave," Harvey whispered, tears spilling freely now. "I didn't have my shoes," she said, apologetic even now. "I didn't go back." "I'm glad you didn't," he said fiercely. Emma stared at her feet. "I ran down the road. It was dark. Cars were loud." Harvey pictured it, his little girl alone on a highway, blood on her legs, fear driving her forward. "I got tired," Emma said, "but I kept thinking about you." His throat closed. "I thought if I stopped," she whispered, "he'd find me." Harvey pressed his forehead to hers. "No one is ever touching you again," he said, voice shaking with promise. "I swear it." Emma nodded, eyes fluttering as exhaustion pulled at her. "Daddy." "Yes, baby." "Aunt Brooke didn't wake up," she said softly. "I tried to shake her." Harvey closed his eyes, pain slicing through him. The paramedics' lights flooded the shoulder in red and blue. Doors slammed. Voices called out. Harvey stayed where he was, holding Emma's hand. Every word she'd spoken carving itself into his memory. Each step of those 6 miles burned into his soul. Chapter 6, What Was Left Behind. Harvey parked across the street from Dolores' house, tires crunching softly against the curb. The place looked exactly the same as it had hours earlier. Lights on, porch tidy, blinds drawn. Normal. Too normal. He killed the engine and turned to Emma. She was bundled in the passenger seat, wrapped in blankets, eyes half-lidded with exhaustion and shock. Her feet had been bandaged by the paramedics, her bloodied legs gently cleaned. She looked impossibly small. "Listen to me," Harvey said, crouching so he was eye level with her. His voice was steady, even if his insides weren't. "I need to go inside for a minute." Her eyes snapped open. Panic flickered there instantly. "No," she whispered, fingers tightening around the blanket. "I'm not leaving," he said quickly. "I'm right outside. Doors locked. Windows up. You stay right here." She searched his face, trembling. "You'll come back." He cupped her cheek. "I promise." Emma nodded, not because she believed it completely, but because she wanted to. Harvey locked the truck, tugged the handle twice, then stepped away. With each step toward the house, something inside him hardened. Whatever waited behind that door, he would face it. The front door was unlocked. That alone made his skin crawl. "Dolores," he called as he stepped inside. The smell hit him first. Metallic. Thick. Wrong. The living room lights were on. Furniture undisturbed. No signs of struggle there. But a dark trail streaked across the tile floor, leading down the hallway. Harvey followed it slowly, each step heavy. "Dolores," he called again, louder now. The kitchen came into view, and then he saw her. Brooke lay sprawled on the floor near the counter, one arm twisted beneath her body, eyes staring sightlessly at the ceiling. Blood pooled beneath her, soaked into the rug, smeared across the cabinets where she must have tried to steady herself. Harvey froze. Time stretched thin, like it might snap. "Oh God," he whispered. A sound came from behind him. "You shouldn't be here." Harvey turned. Lance stood near the back door, knife still in his hand. His shirt was spattered with blood. His eyes were wide, unfocused, adrenaline and panic barely contained. "Put it down," Harvey said calmly. Lance laughed, a short, ugly sound. "She shouldn't have come here." Harvey's muscles coiled. Years of training slid into place, cold and precise. "She was my sister-in-law," Harvey said. "Put it down." Lance's grip tightened. She was going to ruin everything. Before Harvey could move, another voice cut in, flat, unshaken. He had no choice. Dolores stepped into the hallway, hands folded neatly in front of her blouse. Not a hair out of place. No tremor in her voice. She looked at Brooke's body as if it were a broken appliance. She was threatening the family. Dolores continued. "Sometimes sacrifices have to be made." Harvey stared at her in disbelief. "You let him kill her." Dolores met his gaze without flinching. "I protected what mattered." Lance's breathing grew ragged. "She was screaming," he muttered. "She wouldn't stop." "That's enough," Harvey said, eyes locked on the knife. "Drop it. Now." Lance shifted his weight. Harvey moved. He closed the distance in a heartbeat, slamming his forearm into Lance's wrist. The knife clattered to the floor. Lance lunged, but Harvey twisted, grabbed his arm, and drove him face first into the counter. Bone hit laminate with a sickening crack. Lance screamed. Harvey wrenched his arm behind his back, forcing him to his knees, then to the floor. A knee between the shoulder blades. Pressure precise and unforgiving. "Don't move," Harvey growled. Dolores didn't scream, didn't rush forward. She simply watched. "You're overreacting," she said coolly. "This can still be handled." Harvey glanced at her, fury blazing. "Handle?" Dolores sighed. Brooke was unstable. "Drugs. Debt. If the police get involved, it'll destroy Angela." "You murdered her," Harvey snapped. Dolores's lips thinned. Lance did what was necessary. Sirens wailed in the distance. Harvey felt a grim satisfaction at the sound. Lance thrashed beneath him. "You don't understand," he gasped. She knew everything. Harvey tightened his hold. "You should have thought about that before you touched my family." The sirens grew louder. Red and blue lights flickered through the windows. Dolores straightened her blouse. "I'll explain everything," she said calmly. "They'll see reason." Harvey laughed once, hollow. "They'll see exactly what you are." The front door burst open. "Police! Don't move." Harvey raised one hand, keeping the other planted firmly on Lance's back. "I've got him restrained." Officers swarmed in, weapons drawn, eyes taking in the blood, the body, the knife on the floor. One officer knelt beside Brooke, then looked up and shook his head. Another cuffed Lance, hauling him to his feet. Lance didn't fight anymore. He looked broken already. Dolores stepped forward. "This was self-defense," she said crisply. "My daughter's family was in danger." An officer stared at her. "Ma'am, put your hands behind your back." Dolores blinked. For the first time, something like irritation crossed her face. "That won't be necessary." "It is," the officer replied. As the cuffs snapped shut around her wrists, Dolores finally looked unsettled, not afraid, but offended. "This is a mistake," she said. "Everything I did was necessary." Harvey watched as they led her past Brooke's body, past the door, past the life she'd destroyed. He felt nothing but a hollow ache. Outside, the night air felt cold against his skin. He looked toward his truck, toward Emma waiting inside, and then back at the flashing lights, the stretcher, the officers moving through the wreckage of his family. In that moment, Harvey understood with devastating clarity that nothing would ever be the same again. Chapter 7. The Cost to a Child. The hospital lights were too bright, the kind that erased shadows and left nowhere for fear to hide. Emma lay curled on the bed beneath a thin blanket, her stuffed rabbit tucked under her chin, its ear wrapped in gauze the nurse had used to demonstrate bandaging. Monitors hummed softly. The antiseptic smell stung Harvey's nose every time he breathed. He sat beside her, one hand wrapped around her small fingers. They were still cold. A nurse adjusted the four and smiled gently. "You're doing great, sweetheart." Emma nodded without lifting her head. The doctor spoke in careful tones, abrasions on the feet, dehydration, shock, bruising consistent with restraint. Words Harvey heard but didn't absorb. All he could see were the red lines across Emma's heels, the purple shadows on her arm, the way she startled whenever someone touched the curtain. When the police officer entered, Harvey stood immediately. "It's okay," the officer said, holding up his hands. "I just need to ask a few questions. A child specialist will be here too." Emma's grip tightened. "You don't have to answer anything you don't want to," Harvey told her quietly. "I'll be right here." The child forensic interviewer arrived with a soft voice and a small notebook, sitting on the floor instead of the chair to be eye level. She spoke about school, about favorite colors, about rabbits. Emma answered in whispers. When the questions turned toward Dolores's house, Emma went silent. "It's okay," the woman said. "You're safe now." Emma looked at Harvey. He nodded, though his chest felt like it might split open. "She locked me in the closet," Emma said finally. Harvey closed his eyes. The interviewer didn't react. She wrote carefully, calmly. "How often?" Emma shrugged. "When I was bad." "What was bad?" the woman asked. Emma thought. Crying. Asking questions. Harvey's jaw clenched. They took breaks. Emma slept for short stretches, waking with a gasp. Harvey didn't let go of her hand. Angela arrived just after midnight. Harvey heard her before he saw her, heels clicking too fast down the hall, breath hitching. She burst into the room, eyes wild, hair still perfect in a way that felt obscene. "Emma!" she cried. Emma flinched. Angela stopped short, hands hovering uselessly. "Oh God," she whispered. Harvey stood between them without thinking. "She needs space," he said. Angela stared at him, then at Emma's bandaged feet, the dark circles under her eyes. Her face crumpled. "My mother," she said hoarsely. "They said Brooke is dead," Harvey said. Angela staggered back like he'd struck her. A sound tore out her chest, raw and broken. She slid into a chair, shaking. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." A detective entered quietly, closing the door behind him. He introduced himself, spoke gently, but the words were knives. Dolores Flores had been arrested. Lance Larson had confessed to stabbing Brooke during an argument. Evidence suggested planning, coordination, Angela shook her head, tears streaking down her face. My mother would never. She did, Harvey said softly. The detective continued. Over the next hours, pieces fell into place with awful clarity. Prescription records, missing inventory, fake patient files, a pattern spanning years. Dolores was running a distribution ring, the detective explained. Controlled substances diverted from multiple sources. Brooke discovered it through her hospital work. Angela's breath hitched. She told me she was worried about Mom. She whispered. I told her she was imagining things. Harvey watched the realization dawn, slow and devastating. Some of the legal structures, the detective added carefully, the way shell accounts were set up, those documents trace back to consultations you provided. Angela looked up, horror-stricken. I didn't know. I swear. She said it was estate planning. We believe you, the detective said. There's no evidence you knew the criminal purpose. Angela folded in on herself, sobbing. I helped her. I helped her hide it. Emma stirred, whimpering. Harvey turned back to his daughter immediately, smoothing her hair. It's okay. Daddy's here. Angela watched them, something breaking behind her eyes. Over the next days, the hospital blurred into routines, doctors, therapists, officers. Emma was evaluated by specialists who spoke of trauma responses and long-term care. She drew pictures of houses with no windows. She refused to sleep unless Harvey was within arm's reach. A social worker asked questions about custody and safety plans. Harvey answered without hesitation. She's not going anywhere without me, he said. Angela nodded, tears streaming silently. At night, when Emma slept fitfully, Angela and Harvey sat in a quiet room down the hall. They spoke in low voices, stripped of anger now, left with only truth. I didn't listen, Angela said once. You tried to tell me. Harvey stared at the floor. I should have taken her with me. They didn't argue. There was nothing left to win. The investigation continued without them. Detectives came and went, explaining what they could. Names of other conspirators surfaced. Overdose deaths linked back through the supply chain. A web Dolores had spun with clinical precision. Brooke had been gathering evidence. Emails saved. Files copied. A plan to go to the authorities. She was brave, Harvey said one night. Angela nodded. She tried to stop it. Emma asked about Aunt Brooke once. She's sleeping, Harvey said gently. Emma accepted that, then asked if the closet was gone. Yes, he said, voice steady. It's gone. When Emma was discharged, she clung to Harvey as if the world might swallow her whole. Outside, the sun felt too bright, the air too open. Angela walked beside them, quieter now, older somehow. Nothing about their family felt familiar anymore. Trust had shattered. Illusions were gone. What remained was fragile and real. The cost had been paid, in blood, in fear, in a child who would never again be innocent in the same way. And as they drove away from the hospital, Harvey knew with absolute certainty that the life they had before was gone forever. Chapter 8, A Child Takes the Stand. The courtroom smelled faintly of wood polish and old paper, a sterile place that felt too small to hold what had happened. Harvey sat on the hard bench beside Angela, their knees not touching. Between them, an empty space held everything they couldn't say. Across the room, Dolores Flores sat at the defense table, spine straight, hair neatly pinned, hands folded as if she were attending church. She didn't look at Harvey. She didn't look at Angela. Her gaze stayed fixed forward, calm and superior, as though this were a misunderstanding that would correct itself. Lance Larson sat 2 seats away from her, shoulders slumped, eyes darting toward the exits like an animal searching for a way out. He looked smaller now, broken. The judge entered. Everyone rose. Emma waited in a side room with a victim advocate, her feet dangling above the floor, sneakers new and painfully white. She held her rabbit tight, its ears still frayed from where she'd clutched it on the highway. You don't have to look at anyone you don't want to, the advocate told her gently. Just answer the questions. Emma nodded. My dad will be there. Yes, the woman said, right where you can see him. When Emma was called, the room shifted. Chairs creaked. Whispers died. Harvey stood as she entered, every muscle screaming to run to her. Angela pressed a hand to her mouth. Emma took the oath in a small, clear voice. She climbed into the witness chair with help, feet swinging again. She scanned the room until she found Harvey. Their eyes locked. "You're doing great," he mouthed. The prosecutor knelt slightly to be closer to her level. "Emma, do you know why you're here today?" Emma nodded. "To tell the truth. Can you tell us what happened at your grandmother's house?" Emma swallowed. Her fingers twisted in the rabbit's fabric. "They were yelling," she said. "Who was yelling?" The prosecutor asked softly. "Grandma Dolores and Aunt Brooke." Dolores didn't react. Emma described the argument, the words she remembered: money, lying, police. She described Lance arriving, the way his voice sounded angry and sharp. And then, the prosecutor prompted. Emma's voice trembled. "He had a knife." The room was silent except for the scratch of a pen. "What did you see?" Emma closed her eyes. "He stabbed Aunt Brooke." Angela broke then, a sob tearing out of her before she could stop it. Harvey gripped the bench until his knuckles burned. "Did your grandmother try to help?" the prosecutor asked. Emma shook her head. She watched. Dolores's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "What did she say to you?" Emma's eyes opened, wet and haunted. "She told me to go to my room." "And did you?" "No," Emma whispered. "I hid." The defense attorney stood. "Objection. Overruled," the judge said calmly. Emma continued, voice barely audible now. "Grandma saw me. She looked at me like I wasn't supposed to be there." "What happened then?" the prosecutor asked. "She told Lance," Emma said. "She told him I saw." Lance's head dropped into his hands. Emma described the footsteps coming toward her, the panic, the bathroom window that stuck. She described running. No shoes, no coat, just fear pushing her forward. "I didn't stop," she said. "I ran until a man helped me." The prosecutor nodded. "Thank you, Emma." The defense attorney approached slowly. "Emma, are you sure you remember all of this correctly?" Emma looked at him, then at Harvey. "Yes." "You were scared," the attorney said. "Scared people sometimes imagine things." Emma's chin lifted. "I know what I saw." The attorney hesitated, then backed away. When Emma was excused, Harvey was on his feet before the gavel struck. He scooped her up the moment she reached him, holding her while the room buzzed again. The rest of the trial unfolded like a grim lecture in human cruelty. Investigators testified. Financial analysts explained the shell companies and fake patients. Doctors spoke of missing medications, of overdoses traced back to the same supply chain. Emails Brooke had saved were read aloud. Warnings. Please. Proof. Dolores had billed it all. Methodical, controlled, ruthless. Lance had enforced it when words failed. Dolores finally took the stand. "I did what I had to do," she said calmly, "to protect my family." The prosecutor's voice was sharp. "Including ordering the murder of your own daughter?" Dolores didn't blink. "She betrayed us." Angela covered her face. Lance testified next, voice cracking as he admitted his role. "She told me the kids saw," he said, nodding toward Dolores. "She said it couldn't get out." The courtroom seemed to exhale as one. Closing arguments came and went. The jury deliberated. Hours passed. Emma slept curled against Harvey's side, exhausted. When the jury returned, everyone stood. The foreperson's voice was steady. On the charge of first-degree murder, Dolores Flores, guilty. Angela sobbed openly now. Sentence: life in prison without the possibility of parole. Dolores's composure finally cracked. Her lips parted, breath shallow, eyes flicking wildly for the first time. On the charge of first-degree murder, Lance Larson, guilty. Lance sagged. Sentence: life in prison with parole eligibility after 40 years. The gavel struck. It was over. Harvey held Emma close as the courtroom erupted in emotion. Guards, lawyers, reporters. Dolores was led away in cuffs, her gaze passing over Harvey without recognition, as if he were nothing. Outside, the sun was blinding. Angela stood beside Harvey, shaking. "Is it done?" she whispered. "It's done," he said. But as he looked down at Emma, too quiet, too watchful, he knew the truth. Justice had been served by the law. It just wasn't enough. Chapter 9. The Justice No One Sees. Harvey sat in his garage late at night, the only light coming from a single hanging bulb that cast long, sharp shadows over the engine he was working on. The hum of the city outside was distant, almost dreamlike. He wasn't there to fix cars tonight. The wrenches and grease were just props in a life he now had to balance. One part father, one part Avenger. He poured himself a coffee, bitter and hot, letting it settle into his system. His eyes, however, were not on the engine. They were on the list before him, a stack of folders he had acquired quietly over weeks. Names, connections, habits, vulnerabilities. All of them tied back to Dolores Flores and Lance Larson. Every contact, every prior offense, every weak spot. His Marine training had taught him discipline, patience, and precision. His years as a mechanic had taught him patience in a different sense, the slow, meticulous fixing of things that otherwise seemed hopelessly broken. Tonight, he combined them both. He was building a case that didn't rely on a courtroom. The phone rang, a burner he had set up, voice disguised. Harvey spoke briefly with a former military contact, a friend who now worked in private investigation. Details were exchanged quietly. Harvey's tone was calm, almost casual, but underneath there was a current of fury that had not ebbed in months. They're trying to reduce her sentence, the contact said. There's talk of a plea deal. Influential lawyers, donations, media spin. Could clean her image. Harvey's fingers tightened around the mug. Not a chance. I want no deals. I want no sympathy. Every lie exposed. Every network dismantled. No one protects her. No one. You hear me? Yes, sir, the contact said. It'll be done. By morning, Harvey had moved on to another front, vetting inmate connections, mapping the prison hierarchy, quietly feeding information to those who could make Dolores and Lance known to the people who ruled from the shadows. Every warning, every rumor, every documented act of child abuse and drug trafficking made its way through channels Harvey had built over the years. He never interfered directly. He didn't need to. The system of consequences he set in motion was invisible, meticulous, permanent. Dolores arrived at the prison, cuffed and escorted, as cold as ever. Officers noted her composure, but Harvey knew that the storm waiting inside those walls would be relentless. He had made sure the whispers followed her. Child endangerer, murderer, drug trafficker, manipulator. The first week was the quietest. Dolores received her routines, meals, and guards, but whispers trailed her everywhere she went. A nod here, a warning glance there. She didn't know who knew, but she felt the isolation immediately. Every glance from other inmates was loaded with judgment. Every empty table, every subtle shift in seating reinforced that she had no friends here. Lance's introduction into the same environment was more chaotic. His size and aggression initially drew some respect, but the whispered truths about his complicity in Brooks' murder and the child in the hallway turned that respect into contempt. He tried to assert dominance, but doors closed in his face, threats of isolation followed, and the slightest misstep drew attention from those already positioned to enforce harsh consequences. Harvey checked the updates almost obsessively, reports from his contacts, anonymous tips, and surveillance feeds he could access through legal channels. Every incident, every beating, every psychological pressure endured by Dolores and Lance was cataloged. He didn't rejoice in the pain, but he recognized the justice unfolding. This was different from the court system. There are no verdicts, no cameras, no applause. But the consequences were real, unfiltered, and inescapable. One evening, Harvey spoke with his former private investigator contact again. She's isolated, the man said. Inmates know who she is. She's terrified, refusing to sleep in the common area. They've taken her commissary privileges. She's broken down a bit, asking questions, trying to figure out who leaked what. Harvey nodded. Good. She needs to understand fully what she did. Not just in court, not just on paper. Permanence matters. And Lance, the contact asked. Same treatment, Harvey replied. He needs to feel that his choices have consequences beyond what the law could impose. The rest of the weeks passed in a blur. Harvey stayed out of public scrutiny entirely. Friends and neighbors saw a man recovering slowly, helping his daughter with school and repairing cars. But in private, every action was strategic. Every connection, every whisper, every exposure carefully orchestrated. He didn't take pleasure in physical violence. He didn't orchestrate attacks, but he ensured that neither Dolores nor Lance could regain the illusion of safety. Inmate reports reached Harvey indirectly. Dolores had been confronted in the yard, publicly humiliated, isolated from groups that might have offered protection, warned about her reputation repeatedly. Lance was challenged for dominance and consistently undermined, forcing him into a state of constant tension and fear. Harvey kept meticulous notes, cross-referencing dates, locations, and incidents. He did not interfere personally, knowing that direct action could backfire and compromise his daughter's safety or the permanence of the justice he was engineering. Instead, he relied on influence, pressure, and exposure, letting the environment deliver consequences naturally. At home, Emma began to heal slowly. She trusted again, though the memory of the closet, the blood, and the night of the stabbing lingered. Harvey watched her rebuild her routines, her laughter returning in fragile pieces. He knew her safety depended on the permanence of what he had set in motion. Dolores and Lance had to remain consequences, a living reminder that some crimes cannot be undone. On quiet nights, Harvey sat alone in the garage, turning over the events in his mind. The newspaper clippings, the legal documents, the police reports, they all told one story. The legal system had done its part, but he had made certain the human consequences could not be erased. Justice in the courtroom was finite. The kind he delivered was infinite. He thought about Dolores's face when she realized she was known, recognized, and feared in ways no lawyer could mitigate. He thought about Lance's growing realization that control, aggression, and betrayal have costs that echo endlessly. Harvey never touched them. He never needed to. The system he had quietly orchestrated was enough. The beatings, the isolation, the psychological dismantling, they were the natural, unfiltered outcomes of the lives they had chosen. And Harvey knew, as he stood by the garage light, that this was his own form of justice, silent, uncelebrated, yet irreversible. He would not gloat. He would not intervene. But he would ensure that the consequences were permanent, that the evil done could not touch another child again. As he cleaned his hands, wiped the grease from his palms, and set down the tools, Harvey allowed himself one thought, quiet and steady. They would pay, not in words, not in courtrooms, but in a reality they could not escape. And in that quiet certainty, he finally felt a fragile sense of peace. Dolores and Lance were alive, but they were powerless. And Harvey had made sure they would remain that way, broken, exposed, and utterly constrained by the consequences of their own choices. Justice, in the end, had a face no one else could see. Permanent, invisible, absolute. Harvey never touched them, but made sure consequences were permanent. Chapter 10, A Promise That Doesn't Break. The morning light came soft and pale through the living room blinds, casting stripes across the hardwood floor. Harvey sat on the edge of the couch, Emma nestled against him, her small arms draped over his chest like a fragile lifeline. The house was quiet, a deliberate quiet, the kind Harvey had fought to preserve after months of chaos. Outside, the trees swayed in the winter wind, but inside, there was a stillness that felt almost sacred. Emma yawned, her eyes heavy, the dark circles beneath them a reminder of everything she had endured. Harvey brushed a strand of hair from her face and pressed a kiss to her temple. "You okay?" he asked softly. She nodded, though her lips trembled. "I think so," she whispered. "Daddy, I'm scared sometimes." "I know, baby," Harvey said, voice low but steady. "And that's okay. You can be scared, but I'm here. I'll never let anyone hurt you again." Emma's eyes searched his, looking for reassurance. "You mean it?" "Every word," he said firmly. "I'll always protect you. Always. No one will ever get in the way of that again." Her hand clenched his shirt briefly. "Promise." Harvey's chest tightened. He wanted to make a vow that was unbreakable, that could withstand the memory of Dolores and Lance, of the closet, of the blood and the running. "I promise," he said. "I swear it." They stayed like that for a long moment, breathing together, the kind of quiet that only comes when trauma begins to soften at the edges. Harvey felt a hollow ache in his chest, a weight that had lingered since the night he had left Emma on that doorstep. He'd promised himself justice, he delivered it, and now he had to promise himself patience, understanding, and presence. Angela entered quietly, footsteps hesitant, her face pale and worn from nights she hadn't slept. Harvey's eyes met hers, and for a moment, no words were necessary. The shared grief, the guilt, the understanding, they were all there in a single glance. Emma clutched Harvey's side as Angela knelt in front of them. "Hi, sweetheart," Angela said softly. "I've missed you." Emma didn't respond immediately. Her little body stiffened, wary. Harvey stroked her hair, murmuring reassurances. "Mommy's here. She's not going anywhere," he whispered. Angela extended her hand slowly. Emma looked at Harvey, then back at her mother. Harvey nodded once, gently. "Go on," he said. Emma reached out tentatively, taking Angela's hand. It was a small bridge, fragile and unsteady, but it was enough. Angela smiled, though her eyes were brimming with tears. Over the next weeks, the family began the slow, painful process of rebuilding. Therapy appointments filled the calendar, child therapists for Emma, couples therapy for Harvey and Angela, and individual sessions for both parents to untangle guilt and fear. One afternoon, Harvey watched Emma work on a drawing. She sat at the small table in the corner of the living room, crayons scattered like soldiers on a battlefield. She drew a house, doors, windows, a bright yellow sun, and then a figure holding another figure's hand. He recognized the figures instantly, a tall man and a small child. "You're drawing us?" Harvey asked, crouching beside her. Emma nodded without looking up. "You promised," she said quietly. "I did," Harvey replied, voice firm. "And I'll keep that promise forever." Angela joined them, kneeling beside her daughter. "That's beautiful, Emma," she said. "Look at the sunshine you drew." Emma smiled faintly, the kind of small, hopeful smile that felt like a victory. Evenings became sacred. The three of them would sit together, Harvey reading stories, Angela helping with homework, Emma occasionally snuggling between them. Laughter returned slowly, fragilely, but it returned. Harvey noticed how his daughter's hands stopped trembling as much, how her eyes stopped darting toward doors, how she began to sleep for longer stretches. And yet, Harvey knew the world had changed irrevocably. Dolores Flores was alive, but powerless, her existence confined to the prison walls and the endless fear of those around her. He had ensured she could never escape the consequences of her actions, and Lance, too, suffered daily reminders of their choices. Harvey never touched them. He never needed to. But he had delivered justice in a way no courtroom ever could. One night, Harvey stood by the window, watching Emma and Angela in the living room, their laughter soft, almost musical. He sipped his coffee, cold and bitter now, and allowed himself a long, slow breath. He wasn't happy, not entirely. The scars, the memories, the nights of terror, they would never fully leave them. But he was satisfied. Satisfied that justice had been exacted. Satisfied that Emma was safe. Satisfied that Dolores and Lance would never harm another child. Satisfied that a father's promise, when it mattered most, could not be broken. Harvey knelt beside Emma later that night, brushing hair from her face. "You're safe, baby," he whispered. "Always." She nodded against his chest, a small sigh escaping her. "I know, Daddy." Angela leaned close, resting her head on his shoulder. "We'll be okay," she said softly. Harvey pressed a kiss to the top of Emma's head. "We will," he said. "Together. Always." He thought of the road they had traveled, the fear, the blood, the betrayal, and he understood that some wounds never fully healed. But some promises did, and this one, the promise to his daughter, would endure. Outside, the night pressed in, silent and unyielding. But inside, the house was warm, filled with fragile trust, quiet laughter, and the faint, steady heartbeat of safety. Harvey knew Dolores and Lance were still alive, existing somewhere in fear and isolation. He didn't celebrate their suffering, but he recognized the permanence of it. That was justice too. And in the quiet, Harvey made another promise, silently, to himself. He would never allow a child to feel helpless again. He would never look away. He would never leave. Emma stirred, yawning, and murmured, "Daddy." "Yes, sweetheart. I'm not scared anymore," she said. "You never have to be," he whispered. Angela squeezed his hand, and for a brief moment, the three of them existed in perfect alignment, bound by love, trust, and survival. The past could not be undone, but the future, fragile though it was, belonged to them. Harvey looked out the window once more, eyes hard and steady. Justice had been served in its own way, and he had made sure it was permanent. The truth was simple and harsh. You do not destroy a child and escape a father's protection, and Harvey Wiggins would never allow it. The night deepened around them, but inside, the house held light, warmth, and the unbreakable bond of a father who had finally kept his word.